Hello, welcome to part 3 of chemistry, solid, liquids, and gases from Science Whiz collection. Jam the paper towel into the jar. You may want to hold the paper towel in place with tape. Turn the jar upside down. Lower it into the water. Lift the jar straight out of the water. Do not tilt the jar. Remove the paper towel. It's still dry. This proves that air in the jar takes up space. Air keeps the towel dry. It must be there, even though you cannot see it or smell it or taste it. Making your own gases. Are some gases heavier or more dense than other gases? Let's make a gas and test if it's heavier than air. You will need an empty bottle with a narrow neck, such as a soft drink bottle, balloon, funnel, or straw. Fill the balloon with baking soda. Use a piece of paper or the 10 milliliter plastic tube in the kit to funnel baking soda into the balloon. Pour the vinegar about 1/4 cup into the bottle with a funnel. Stretch the neck of the balloon over the bottle like this. Caution, be sure the balloon is firmly attached to the neck of the bottle before you do step 4. Empty all the baking soda from the balloon into the bottle. Stand back. You just made a gas from a liquid and a solid. Balloons sink or float. When the balloon stops expanding, carefully remove it from the bottle. Tie the balloon. Make sure the balloon has no baking soda left in it. Write CO2 on the balloon with a permanent marker. CO2 stands for carbon dioxide. Have an adult blow up a second balloon with air. Label it air. You could have a third balloon filled with helium. Label it He for helium. Which balloon sinks or is heavier than air? If you had a helium balloon, it would rise because it's less dense than air. What happens to the air balloon? In the milk carton experiment, you played with water pressure. Let's play with air pressure. You will need water, an empty jar, a shallow pan, a candle, wooden blocks. Have an adult light the candle. Place the jar over the candle. What happens? Why? Arrange the pan, block, candle, and jar like this. Pour water into the pan up to the lip of the jar. Add food coloring. The jar should be slightly wider than the block of wood. Remove the jar and light the candle. Remove the candle with the jar. Cover the candle with the jar. Watch the water level. What happens after the candle goes out? Why? Here is a very dramatic air pressure experiment to try. The water rises into the jar, filling in where the depleted oxygen gas was. As the oxygen is depleted, the gas pressure is reduced inside the jar, and the air pressure from the air outside the jar pushes the water into the jar. See the Harvard EDU education discussion in the chemistry portal, sciencewiz.com, for a more complete discussion of this often misexplained result. Here is a very dramatic air pressure experiment to try. You will need a hard-boiled egg with the eggshell removed, a solid glass bottle with the neck that will hold the egg in place. Have an adult toss a lit match into the bottom. As the match goes out, quickly place the egg at the top of the bottle. Wait, what happens to the egg and why? The flame burns the oxygen in the jar, and the air becomes less dense as it is heated. The egg is then squeezed into the bottle by the air pressure from above. Remember solids. If you pour solid pencils from a cup, they do not plot into a puddle. When you squeeze a pencil, you do not change its size. A solid has a different shape. A definite shape. A solid has a definite size or volume. The shape of a solid can be very complex. You cannot pour it into a measuring cup. So how can you measure? How much space it occupies? Here's Archimedes' Archimedes' way. You will need an empty pan, a measuring cup, a cup full of water, a solid object that will fit inside the cup. Put the object in the cup of water. Let the water overflow the pan. Use a measuring cup or spoon to see how much water spilled into the pan. This is the volume of the object. Sink or float. Can you make a solid that sinks float? Here, one way to do it. Put a ball of clay into a bowl of water. Does it sink or float? Can you make the clay float by changing its shape? There are at least 2 ways to make the clay float. Reshape the clay into a bowl until it floats. Make it into a thin, flat sheet. Catch its surface tension. Very heavy solids, even metals, can be shaped so they can float. You lower their density by adding air. By shaping the clay into a bowl, you added air and decreased its density. Dissolves or not. Can you make a solid vanish into a liquid? Let's see. You'll need a teaspoon of sugar, sand and small stones, a teaspoon of salt, 3 cups of jars of water. Which of these solids disappear or dissolve as you stir? Which do not? Which float on the surface and which sink? Salt and sugar are 2 solids that disappear or dissolve in water. They are soluble in water. The stones and sand do not dissolve. They are insoluble. Can you separate the dissolved salt and sugar from the water? Let's try a coffee filter. Pour the sugar and the salt water through a coffee filter. Does the dissolved sugar or salt stay in the filter? What happens as you pour clear water through the filter? Pour the sand mixture through the filter. Does the filter separate the water from the rest? If you add too much salt or sugar, not all of it will dissolve. The water will be saturated solutions of sugar or salt. Water do not separate with filtering. The insoluble mixtures of sand and stones can be filtered. You can remove the salt or sugar from water in another way. Let's make crystals. Pour salt into a cup of water. Mix. The water should be saturated with salt. This means that even after mixing, some salt stays on the bottom of the cup. Suspend a loop from a straw into the salt water. Let the water evaporate or dry out for a couple of days. As the water evaporates, what happens to the salt? As the water evaporated into the air and becomes a gas, the salt is left behind and forms salt crystals. This is called crystallization. American or crystallization. British. You'll receive a new book and kit every 2 months. Adventure into the world of science with these award-winning materials. Scientific American Young Readers Award, National Parenting Magazine Awards, Dr. Toys Top 10 Educational Toys. Saving Club members receive a 20% discount of the list price of each title. If you have already purchased a particular title, you may exclude that title by circling it in the list below. Electricity magnetism, light, sound, chemistry, liquids, solids, and gases, charge, chemistry, plus alphabet of the universe, inventions, physics, energy, rocks, DNA, cool, citrus, or others. Thank you for watching this video. Hope you enjoyed. Bye.